Let's bow. Almighty and eternal supreme being, the light of all lights, the creator of the universe, we sing your praise alone, for you are guide and protector. Supreme being, continue to bestow upon us your mercies and compassion, that we shall be pleased and be pleased all in the city of San Fernando, that we shall glorify your name to the world through our examples. Almighty being, may your light shine upon this city and our country. Keep us away from all forms of darkness, and that we shall always acknowledge your greatness. For without your presence, nothing will be achieved. Amen.
To His Worship the Mayor, members of Council, Mr. CEO, members of administration, ladies and gentlemen, may we all sit and listen to our safety briefing at this time.
Members, the statutory meeting is hereby called to order. Minutes and omissions from the minutes of the Tuesday 26th. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can I get confirmation, please?
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of Council, I move for the confirmation of the minutes of the 21st statutory meeting of the 10th San Fernando City Council held on Tuesday, the 26th of September, 2018.
All in favor? Second, sorry.
Mr. CEO, members of Council, Vista Marbella South Vista, rise to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Matters arising. Page 2. Three. 4. 5. 6. 12.2. Could we get a report on the exercise, members? The level 2 leadership program, members who attended. The value of it, if we got value for our money, if it's worth it should be the exercise. Anybody to share their thoughts on it?
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of Council, I rise to speak about the leadership conference that we held a couple of weeks back. Your Worship, it was quite informative, and all of the members of staff, key members of staff were included, and I was pleased to see that it can only add to the operations of this organization by lending that type of support. I was pleased by your remarks saying that it was something that you wanted annually. For the first time that in my recent memory, there was a live stream in the auditorium, and that is quite commendable that the San Fernando City Corporation now has a conference hall, I would consider. And we saw the John Maxwell team present, I think, was the American actor Tyler Perry and so many more other industry leaders would have given us some inspiration. So, Your Worship, I was quite pleased. I know that there were also members of the public that was at this event. and we had team building exercises. So I really consider myself fortunate to have been invited and to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barris. Any other members? Sorry.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, one of the things I felt that was so good about it is that when I looked at the attendance, we really had a full house. And I would say that one of the things that came across in all of that is that we are leaders in our own rights, and that it was so appropriate for us to have that kind of session. And this is something we should always encourage. The mayor had spoken about it on that day, you know, how he was so enthusiastic about it and all that. But I must say that it was a very, very good session. Is a pity it's so far apart because they're saying that the next one is October next year. Is it?
The 11th.
11th of October next year?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really, really happy to be there. And then some people were able to share some of their leadership skills. And we need more sessions like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. See you with somebody on the admin side like to report on the exercise.
Yes, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, members of admin. Firstly, Your Worship, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity for not just some of my staff, but most of my key players, which included the technical department, the engineering department, the public health department. So what we looked at is the higher level managers as well as the low level managers, the managers who would be supervising the workers out there. It was really, we were all there and we gathered there. It was really a very informative event for us. And secondly, the fact that what was discussed, what was shared with us is something that we can practice. We had our first meeting, but it had to be aborted very early because of a situation that we had to deal with. But we, as our senior officers, we decided to meet on this matter. We meet as senior officers, and then we're going to share it down to our junior officers. Not all the entire staff could have attended, but we put in a program in place where we who were there and learned and from there and benefited will now share it with others. And I really am extremely happy. I know that with you would have organized a second councillor. It would be, Mayor would have organized a second event for us that will happen soon as this event that is going on right now with the disaster. As soon as that is completed, the second event will be taking place for just us members of staff as well as the council. Again, we thank for the opportunity, and I know we have benefited extremely, Your Worship.
Thank you, CEO. I think Mrs. Manning have agreed to do a no-cost session with us, particularly for staff, as we look at leadership and the role that we play in terms of management. One of the takeout from that exercise was that success is 85% attitude and 15% talent or skills. So if we could derive the positive attitude, we could really focus and move forward. So I really look forward to that session, importantly. And in terms of leadership, I remember in my contribution very early on saying that leaders are born, and somebody got up later on and said, no, leaders can be developed or made, right? And then I go back to, I remember those of us who read Inward Hunger. Dr. Williams gave 3 descriptions of leaders in Inward Hunger. In the beginning, actually in the beginning of that book, he said, leaders are born, some people have leadership entrusted upon them, and it's a third one. I think they developed kind of the correct phrase. So there's, I mean, the theory varies. It's not correct to say that leaders are born only. Leaders can develop. You go to a primary school and you look at standard 1 class, and you look at the children, and you could tell who the leader is in that class. So leaders are born. You can tell leadership in persons and people about how they function and how they operate. And leadership is a very exciting program because leaders come in several different forms, and you could understand where your leadership skills are. All of us can't be leaders, and all of us can't be followers, but it's very interesting, and I thought it was a great exercise. What that impressed me the most, actually, out of that program was the lady who sailed 3.5 months, row across the Atlantic, right? that was mind-boggling when you think about not only is the commitment and wanted to survive and succeed. I thought she was missing a few screws, but it just shows that level of commitment. This is what these exercises do. It can really bring out the best in you. That level, you commit yourself, you have to get it done. And the positive attitude, because she was committed to that. And without her husband, when she spoke about being there Christmas Day, out in the Atlantic, you alone and a whale passing that is 3 times the size of the boat you're in. That was incredible. So I look forward to that other experience. Miss Lodge, you missed that event? You was there? You was there? All right. Okay, right, great. Right. So you look forward to the next session. We'll see you. So we continue on page 6. On page 7. Continue with the agenda for announcements.
Your Worship, CEO, members of council, Manipur Navet rise for the following announcements. Our police constable, one of our former employees, Police Officer Leonard Francis, who died on the 21st of September 2018. We also had the mother of Halcyon Brewster, one of our employees, Brewster Bryan. Her mother's name was Elsa Brewster. I don't want to try to pronounce the middle name. She died on the 8th of October 2018. And we also had the husband of Ms. Sanka, Mr. Gregory Fournillier, who died on the 9th of October 2018. We also had another death, Professor Fillmore, and I know that His Worship would want to pay homage to him. Thank you.
I think okay. That's completed there with your exercise, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, sir.
So we have 2 as well. To announce, let me call somebody upstairs, so I'll get back to that. So I've been asked to say something on the 2 persons from the arts, which is Ken Fillmore and Shadow. I would like to start with Ken Fillmore first. For those of us not familiar with the Pan fraternity, it would be difficult to understand why they had this whole sort of outpouring of love and appreciation for Ken Fillmore. Ken was born, I knew Ken actually on Smart Street and Hubert Rand Street as a child growing up in the Vista Bella area, and then before he moved to Vista Bella. On a personal note, Ken played at my wedding, was my musician of choice, and provided the music for dancing. You know, there's a part of the wedding where the bride and groom take their first step. I took my first dancing step with Ken. And further to that, when Skiffle went conventional in 1993, I had made a prediction that we will make it to the Panorama Final as a large band in less than 3 years. So in 1995, out of desperation, I invited Ken to arrange for the band, and we came 6th in the Panorama Final, making our first Panorama Final, which kind of created a whole nexus between we and him in a relationship. He went on to arrange for our band for 4 years, and that success, I mean, our first final will always be indelible place in my mind, because he was there with the name of the tune was Jump and Mash Up the Party by Anselm Douglas. Very exciting piece. What made Ken special was his infectious personality and his warmth. Those of us who interacted with him will always tell you that the first words out of his mouth is that I love you, and the second thing he tries to do is kiss you, whether you're a man, a woman, or a child. He'll plant a kiss on your forehead, on your head. You don't care if you're sweating, because that was the warmth and that human side of him. As that funeral unfolded, his wife came to see us here, and we spoke with her about how we move forward. People came from as far as Australia and Japan for that funeral. They continue to have functions all over the world to celebrate the life of Ken Fillmore. There was one in London this last weekend, that's several in the US, North America, and also in Japan. And that was the impact of him and his skill and his talent. We all know what happened in 1990 with Pan by Storm, and the rage that Southerners feel for the way he was treated. And we will move on. He will as somebody said, he will take heaven by storm and continue with his music and continue to make people happy. We in San Fernando are very, very proud of him and very glad to have known him, and we thank him for his music, and we know councils have several considerations for appreciating him for his contribution to us. And people must understand, you know, it is not so much the result of the competition, not competitions he won, but it's his contribution overall and the impact he had on a lot of young people with their lives and his influence. So I know that we here have been looking at it, and several recommendations will be put forward to celebrate his life. And to add to that, that Ken has played in some of the major musical centers in the world. People like Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, big names in the jazz world, he performed on stage with them. As a matter of fact, at one time he was a performing member of Duke Ellington's band. And that speaks volumes of his talent and his achievement. We move to the other icon, the mightiest shadow of them all. And it's very fortunate. I mean, I have an age advantage on other members of council that grew up in a particular period. But to understand Shadow is to study him. I had that opportunity because Shadow and I toured Europe in 1997. And I was his roommate. I remember going into a store in Belgium with Shadow, and Shadow picked up 2 shirts and asked me which one I think he should buy. I said, well, knowing him to being a black person in terms of his colors, well, the black and white. He said, nah, I'll take the green. If you know you want the green, then ask me what color you want to buy. You know, he took the green. But we went out, we reached about 10 blocks up the road. He said, no, I think you were right, you know. We had to go back to the store and leave the green and take the black. But I had it right because I know those are his colors. But Shadow was spending 2 weeks with Shadow and being his roommate allowed me to understand he was the most peculiar person I ever come across. And when you study his life, because he was born in Belmont, and was taken to Tobago by his parents when he was very young, between 4 and 6 years old, and left in Tobago with an uncle. So you would have seen the influence of both sides, being born in Belmont in 1946, post Second World War era, how Port of Spain transformed in that time, and then going to Tobago and growing up in Tobago and being exposed to the folk of Le Couteau, and how that shaped his career and his music. You will also understand his rebellious ways and how his personal life affected him, because all his songs are really protest songs. If you study his history, the one that touched me the most was Poverty is Hell. And you get the impression that Shadow is singing about himself, and each stanza spoke about the different levels of poverty. How you end up in prison, what the police can do to you, what you have to eat, how you get a job, and how you make it. And he was saying that all the poverty is hell, you can make it. And then there's that nexus between hell and the baseman from hell, and he's from hell, because Shadow always felt that he was treated badly, or maybe his life was hell. The baseman from hell is another phenomenal piece of music that we'll always remember. And I come out to play. And those songs, you know, what's wrong with me? You know, there you go again. What's wrong with me? Am I ugly or what? Right? What is he saying? Why you can't accept me and accept his music? The unfortunate thing about these things that we accept it now, all over you go, you're hearing Shadow music, and that's why I have a problem with our society, right? Shadow music we played every day because Shadow music is a reference point and will continue to be a reference point for us for years to come. When you look at the University of West Indies, giving him an honorary degree. They're not giving him an honorary degree because he's been singing for 20 or 30 years now, because of the quality of his music and what he's saying, his story. So as I said before, his music will be documented, researched and circulated as a reference point for years to come. I don't know very few of the young or the modern so-called soca, or whatever you want to call them, music will be given that kind of accolade or appreciated in that light. We will, you know, the other one is that comes to mind is Dinguli. It's a gem. When Shadow speak about when you listen to the music, right? Your clothes could be bust up, your shoes could be tear up, anybody could dingle, right? Music has no friend or enemy. Those are profound lines, right? And how it's interpreted and those things. So, you know, when you listen to the songs, Shadow songs, it provoke your thoughts. Shadow went on to sing a very special one, Horn. You're looking for horn, right? Those are music for us to reflect on. It tells of it speaks about infidelity in a very profound way. Not just how we speak about infidelity, what creates infidelity, what contributes to infidelity, and that was Shadow's story. We will, as I said before, look to him. He brought about what I would consider an indelible impact on our collective consciousness. So may he rest in peace, and may we all stand for a minute of silence in tribute to the great lives of Professor Fillmore and the late Dr. Winston Bailey, a.k.a. Shadow. I will like to, where are we in, yeah, I'll come to that. Papers of correspondence, and at some point we'll have a little surprise before our meeting, where we'll pay tribute to the late Shadow. Papers of correspondence.
Yes, Your Worship, members of Council, members of Admin. First item, letter from Ministry of Works and Transport, addressed to His Worship Mayor Alderman Junior Regrello. Information on traffic plan in the city of San Fernando. On behalf of the Minister of Works and Transport, I wish to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated April 17, 2018, as the subject refers. The Honourable Minister wishes to thank you for your information and further advises that your comments are noted. Second item, letter from Fire Service Headquarters. Dear Sir, Madam, we wish to take this opportunity to thank you and your organization for sharing in our vision to host the first of several joint inspection exercises, which was held on Wednesday, July 4, 2018. Your representative, PC Ramnanan, and Acting Sergeant Hari Prasad were very professional and played an integral role in ensuring our goals were accomplished. Without your support, this venture would not have been such a great success. As a result, we wish to express our heartfelt thanks and look forward to your continued support. Signed, Chief Fire Officer. Third item, letter from CyberLab, addressed to His Worship the Mayor. Internet access in the auditorium. CyberLab Limited requested the use of the auditorium to host the streaming of John Maxwell Company Live to Lead 2018 simulcast on October 12, 2018. In order to carry out the live broadcast in the auditorium, CyberLab needs access to the internet. However, this is currently not available. Against this background, a proposal was put forward to enable access to the internet in the auditorium at CyberLab's limited expense. Subsequently, a meeting was held with Mr. Israel Raghunath, the IT officer of the corporation, and the required equipment needed for the project finalized. With the understanding that the corporation would undertake the installation, the following items at a cost valued at $4,500 was handed over to the San Fernando City Corporation, and Your Worship installed and was tested and used on the day of the event. CyberLab thanks His Worship the Mayor for the opportunity to engage in the public-private partnership to provide internet access to the auditorium. Signed, Managing Director Martin Jacques. Fourth item, letter from Belgrove's Funeral Home and Company Limited, addressed to His Worship the Mayor, Alderman Junior Regrello. Dear Your Worship, words cannot express the immense feeling of gratitude I feel for the honor of the presentation to me of the key to the city of San Fernando. This is recognition of my contribution and service to the people of San Fernando and Trinidad and Tobago. I am truly blessed to have such wonderful people showing their support in such a magnificent way. Today, I am more committed than ever to the community of San Fernando that has brought me so much joy and success. We look forward to working together as we continue to build our beautiful city of San Fernando. Sincerely, Keith Belgrove, Chief Executive Officer. Next item, letter from Trinbago Unified Calypsonians Organization addressed to His Worship. Your Worship, in observance of the annual San Fernando City Week celebration, the organization of Tuco South Central Zone is proud to partner with the San Fernando City Corporation in hosting an evening of humor on Saturday, 3rd November, 2018. Our presentation, Sando Alive 2, will be held at the City Hall Auditorium from 7 p.m. and we would like to take this opportunity to invite you and members of your council to a truly humorous and an entertaining evening. We look forward to your presence as well as members of your council. We thank you for allowing us the opportunity to partner once again on this memorable occasion. Respectfully yours, signed Cheryl and Joseph. Last item, Your Worship, from the San Fernando Municipal Police Station, subject, funeral arrangements. Reference is made to the subject at caption. On behalf of the San Fernando Municipal Police Station, and by extension, the Trinidad and Tobago Municipal Police Service, I hereby extend my gratitude and heartfelt thanks to you and your office for the kind contribution and assistance extended to us for the funeral arrangements of the late Police Constable Leonard Matthew Francis on Thursday, the 4th of October, 2018. We therefore wish to express our sincere appreciation for your assistance. Signed, Carly Huggins, Senior Superintendent, Municipal Police Service South. That is from Admin, Your Worship.
Thank you, CEO. Before we move to the committee reports, we did do a right moment, and it should have followed the announcements on shadow. I would like to invite Mr. Ras Commander to do a version of Dinguli for us, and let us appreciate and let us think about, listen to those lines in Dinguli, what makes Shadow special. Mr. Ras Commander, the center stage is yours, yes, and we will promise to sing along, those of us who know this song. I will really back up if you have no problem with that.
I would really like that because you did a beautiful work at Windermere this morning.
Right.
Let me say first, on behalf of the Trinbago Unified Calypsonians Organization, Your Worship, I want to thank you for recognizing our brethren, the late great Winston Bailey, Dr. Winston Bailey, the mighty Shadow. You know, his body will be, I think, buried. I'm not sure yet if it's cremated or buried. On Tuesday coming, more information will be forthcoming. Because
in Trinidad or Tobago?
Not Trinidad. It's cremated because he's carrying the ashes to Tobago.
Okay.
I heard that from my son, right? So I want to really thank the council for that. Well, you know me, I just break the ice because I say all protocols observed. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we have a thing we just do. Is we say you could sit down in your chair and you could get on. Run the chalk father. Where you? Where?
On the side.
Hey, will you hide him? Run it, fast.
Continue that mood, we all end up dancing inside there. But this is really the life about Shadow. And if you listen to the lyrics as you went along, just the two verses there, you get an understanding about the thought process that went into putting those words together. You know, what music can do to you. Guys, if you're an old lady or a young baby, or your clothes bust up and that sort of thing. So, tribute to the great starlet, the great, great Shadow. Yeah, as you move forward. I hear you. I hear you. So, committee reports for acceptance. So, committee reports, finance planning allocation of resources.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, I move for the acceptance of the finance planning and allocation of resources committee. Meetings held the 23rd of August, 4th of September, and the 11th of September.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, Marabella South Vistabella rise to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Public health.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, Mr. CEO, members of administration. I, Alderman Johannes Dienrein, do rise for the Public Health Committee report of meetings held on the 4th of September 2018.
Second.
Mr. CEO, members of council, Marabella South Vistabella rise to second.
All in favor? Any against? The motion. You got a second? Yeah. Carried. Physical infrastructure.
Your Worship, members of council, CEO, members of administration, laissez for East Prero rises to move a motion for the acceptance of the Physical Infrastructure and Transport Committee report of the meeting held on Monday, 17th July 2018. And two meetings, sorry, Your Worship, and the 11th of September 2018.
Second, please.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of administration, members of council, laissez for West Laramine rises to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Personal.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council. I, Alderman Thomas, rise for the acceptance of the Personnel Committee report held on the 11th of September 2018.
Second.
Your Worship, CEO, members of council, Monipo Navet, rise for the second of the report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? The abstention? The motion is carried. Committee reports for adoption, planning and development.
Your Worship, members of council, CEO, members of administration, laissez for East Sapero rises for the adoption of the Planning and Development Committee report of the meeting held on 11th September 2018.
Second.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of administration, members of council, laissez for West Laramine rises to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Planning and development. Parks and institutions.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, Marabella South Vistabella rise for the adoption of the Parks and Institution Committee report, meeting held on the 11th of September 2018.
Second.
Your Worship, CEO, members of council, Monipo Navet, rise for seconding the report.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. General purposes.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, move for the adoption of the General Purpose Committee report meeting held on the 11th of September 2018.
Second.
The council, CEO, members of administration, Lizzie for Isipero rises to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Education and Youth Development.
Your Worship, members of council, CEO, members of administration, Lizzie for Isipero rises for the adoption of the Education and Youth Development Committee report of meeting held on the 11th of September 2018.
Your Worship, CEO, members of council, Monipo Navet, rise to second same.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Quality on the arts.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, Koketuruba rise for the adoption of the committee report meeting held on the 4th of September 2018.
Second, please.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, members of administration, Leisure for West Laramine, rise to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Public claims and liabilities.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of administration, members of council, Leisure for West Laramine, rises for the adoption of the committee meeting for liability, public claims and liability held on the 4th of September 2018.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council, Mr. CEO, members of administration, I, Alderman Johannes Dinner.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Sports and social services.
Your Worship, CEO, members of council, Monipo Navet, rise for the report of the Sports and Social Services Committee of meeting held on the 4th of September 2018.
Pleasant afternoon, Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, members of administration. My brother East is pleased to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Security and disaster.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, Koketuruba rise for the adoption of the Security and Disaster Committee report meeting held on the 4th of September.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, Alderman Thomas rise to second same.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Tourism and heritage. Second, please.
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council, members of administration, Leisure for West Laramine, rise to second.
All in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Assessment.
Your Worship, members of council, CEO, members of administration, Lizzie for Isipero rises for the adoption of the Assessment Committee report of meeting held on the 4th of September 2018.
Members of council, members of administration, Marabella East is pleased to second.
And all in favor? Any against? Any abstention? The motion is carried. Mr. CEO, any petitions?
Your Worship, members of council, members of admin, no petition today.
Any motions?
No motion today.
Any personal explanations?
No personal explanation from admin.
Questions?
No questions from admin.
Councillor Lynch, can we get a report on disaster management?
Your Worship, Mr. CEO, members of council. As we're all aware, on Saturday the 20th, a national disaster was declared, and as such, the entire nation was asked to respond. It must be mentioned that the San Fernando City Corporation, to the Disaster Management Unit, minor flooding was reported. In fact, during the disaster, we had two official reports, one at 6th Street Extension, Marabella, and two at Padmore Street, where we had a fallen tree. Your Worship, I know you would have visited this personally. It must be mentioned that all is not always well in our beautiful city. In fact, we have several flood-prone areas, all of which had a major reduction in the increase, or rather the rise, of our flood waters. And all of this can be correlated to the cleanup efforts by our councillors in each electoral district. In fact, some areas recently had extensive work done, and we must mention the work that was conducted at Pleasantville around the Circular Council Paris, as well as in my electoral district at Taruba. And of course, I must make mention to our CEO in indicating that the Eden Street issue in Marabella will soon be addressed in Councillor Smith's area. In fact, however, as much as the city of San Fernando were not directly impacted by the national disaster, the disaster management unit were not only available 24 hours to our citizens, but also to other corporations. In fact, the disaster management unit responded to a total of 98 police officers, 38 male trainees, 10 instructors, 46 female trainees, 5 female instructors, all of which who were stranded in our beautiful city, and they were housed at the Marabella Secondary School. As such, they were given 27 cots, 60 blankets, and refreshments. The relief efforts did not stop there. It should be noted that through the disaster management unit, we are still working alongside various regional corporations in their cleanup efforts. Our water trucks, backhoe, excavator, to name a few, are still stationed at the Tunapuna Regional Corporation. In every experience, we aim to making the next one more efficient and more effective. As such, it should be noted that we wish to make communication more effective to our citizens. It was brought to our attention that some citizens were not aware of the disaster management unit. So our aim is not only to sensitize citizens of the locations of the unit, but also the services they provide and how contact can be made to such or said unit. Our efforts did not go unnoticed, as we are commended by our Honorable Minister of Local Government, Haji Kazim Hussein, and the chairman of various corporations. In all things, we must give thanks. Thank you to Presentation College, Naprima College, medical associates, NGOs, churches, and persons that came individually. It should be noted that the whole city of San Fernando came to support. In fact, today a 3-ton truck filled with supplies were ready up and ready to be distributed to the various corporations. I must say special thanks to you, Your Worship, being the first citizen of our city, Mr. CEO, for allowing our workers as well as staff, and a special mention to Ms. Melissa Mohammed, our disaster coordinator at the Disaster Management Unit. With that being said, Your Worship, I just want to say further thanks, and I want to quote the words of Her Excellency when she said that she's so grateful for our protective services who risk their lives for others, and other regional corporations, disaster management organizations, NGOs, and all those who selflessly give their service. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor, and well done. Ourselves held an emergency meeting on Monday morning, a special caucus to plan the way forward. And I know you have a document in your front of you now for your perusal, where we'll be putting together a policy as we move forward in terms of preparing ourselves for any inevitable development. Sometimes there's a saying with the neighbor house on fire, you at yours, as we prepare ourselves to move forward. Well done, Councillor. Thank you. CEO, there are a couple of things that we need to highlight. I want to ask, I know that we have within our celebration, there's a sports, family sports and things that are happening within the corporations. I'd like the chairperson for sports to give us an update on where we are.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, CEO, members of council. It is with distinct pleasure that I rise to report on the activities at the San Fernando City Corporation as it relates to our Sports and Family Day. I must say that it has started. It started yesterday with some pre-games. We had basketball and all fours being played yesterday at Skinner Park. And today we're taking a rest day. Tomorrow we're going to have cricket, and the following day we're going to have football. So we have a number of pre-events that would lead up to a marathon being held on the 23rd of October. Right? And we have about 50 odd people registered from within the corporation. So that is very much on stream. That marathon would be running from Skinner Park, going across Scott Street, up the bypass, and going back down through Pleasantville and back to Skinner Park. It's starting 6 a.m. for those people who want to participate in the event. We're still taking registration. We also have we have 10 teams registered for Fun Pass, and the teams have come from within the corporation. A number of groups have come together. So we have like City Hall, the staff here, and well, admin and so on coming together. We have from the yard, we have people from the yard represented. We have people from the various districts, okay, participating in the events. The report from yesterday is that it was well attended, and I must thank the CEO for allowing us to use Skinner Park, and the other people who have been participating. I must also mention to the Deputy CEO, Ms. Bark, who has been working tirelessly to ensure that these events come off. We also have a one-day event, which would be our Fun Day event. That is going to be on the 30th of November, and we are all looking forward to having a good day. We also have an Iron Chef program as part of our activities. So those of you who have the culinary arts, we're going to provide you with the material, and you're going to do the cooking on the spot. So looking forward to seeing each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm not hearing anything about the councillors. You know what sport the councillors taking part in, but
So the councillors, some of them are involved in the All Fours.
All Fours, okay.
Yes.
All right, okay. All right.
On one in the 5K.
All right. So well done, Councillors Wilson. See, I would like to table the list of events for city celebration of the month of November, and we have a whole month of events planned, and just to have this approved today. On the details, we've been putting it together for quite a while, and what we have done is already made our auditorium available for a month of events, which make it a festival month, but there's some very interesting events inside of there. Most of our cultural and artistic groups are participating, and so we'll have a lot of events to attend. I would like to make a special appeal to the public and the councillors to attend these functions, attend these events as we move along, starting on the 1st of November with a Miss Mature competition, and that's something to look forward to. And we move into, we have dance, we have span music, we have so many different, it's a very varied program. And I'd like just to make a special appeal. We have sports inside the councillor. Montano is putting together a football small goal tournament. We have a health book event, helped by the book, and there's some documentation here for us to look at, and that runs from the 28th, I think, 26th, for almost a week, about eating healthy exercises, conducting your life, well-being, and that sort of different things. I haven't heard from Public Health on their distinguished lecturer. I don't know who the distinguished lecturer is, but we know that event is also on. And the Saturday the 17th is our very big day with our ecumenical church service at St. Paul's Anglican Church at 5 p.m. and our awards function. So we're special appeal to councillors to get the information in by this week so we can have this thing tied up. I mean, there's so many things happening that we don't get any time to plan these events. And also we have on Saturday the 10th, we have When Kaiso Was Kaiso with vintage calypso, and seeing Ms. Roderick smiling downstairs there, and Mr. Montano, that's from your era. That's from the 50s and the 60s will be sang on that show. And I'm making a special appeal. Try and not miss this show. This will be a very special show. So this was to be a very well put together package. And let's support it in our city celebration and give it the impetus it needs. For that, and also, see, I would also like to table some street names that we need to change and a recommendation, and I will pass this on to the media after. Our CorpSec have presented the documentation for us here, and to make some changes. I'm not seeing it. One is to rename Yeah, right. Okay, good, thanks. Then this will have to be tabled. Chair of GP will be brought to your committee next week, but I'm just tabling it here as statutory. To rename the street between Lady Hales Avenue and Independence Avenue, the Steve Achaiba Street. To rename the short street between High Street and Harris Promenade, the Bobby Muhammad Street. To rename Cuenca Street, the Dr. Rupert Indar Street. To rename Paradise Street, the corner of Paradise Street and Library Corner, the Ken Fillmore Street. And Cuenca Street is to be renamed the Rupert Indar Street, and the short street between Cuenca Street and High Street be named St. James Street Extension. To rename Henry Street from Coffee Street to Maiden Street to Belgrove Lane, to rename Crosby Lane to Guides Lane, and Independence Avenue to Hazley Crawford Independence Avenue. By virtue of Section 138 and 1401 of the Municipal Corporation Act No. 21 of 1990, these sections clearly outline the renaming of the streets in the city. And according to 138, a council shall name or rename streets for which its local highway authority number or renumber all premises, including vacant lots within the municipality. Sir, do I need a motion for this?
No.
Not as yet. Yeah. Okay, this is just tabled for information, and GP will have it ratified. Members, the month of October has brought with it several major national items of which all citizens should pay close attention to. And these factors will now have a major role in our lives as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. However, despite the challenges that may arise, they have provided ample opportunity for growth and maturity of thought. Last week, our nation experienced a natural disaster in the form of almost unprecedented flooding. The congruence of colliding weather patterns, springtide, and human development spurred on a major flooding event that has impacted thousands of lives, our national infrastructure, businesses, and many industries, which was clearly outlined in the most defined way and the most comprehensive way by our chairperson, Councillor Lynch. The increasing frequency as well as our intensity of these weather events fit the scientific model that indicates the impact that climate change will have on our society if left unchallenged. The magnitude of this event will take quite some time to be analyzed as to its impact and the future mechanisms that need to be devised that will be necessary to mitigate its effect. And as I said earlier on, we will be developing a policy as we move forward. Coincidentally, we must now look at this impact this event will have on the 2018 budget, which was recently passed. The sheer impact of this flooding event will have a financial outlook for the Ministry of Works and Transport, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, and the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. Their budget will not be fully assessed, so we have to revisit these events and how it impacts on our overall budget. However, if we are to estimate the cost, I'm certain that there will be significant drawdowns that will affect the allocation made by the budget across these ministries. As such, it will be most prudent for us to adopt a position of frugality and recognize that it may not be business as usual in any of the corporations for this fiscal year. In so doing, it will be necessary that we revisit our plans and perspective for the city this year and focus on revenue-generating activities to make up for any possible shortfall in funding. And so we have to, I hope we get an update on the public convenience library code. I know that we are looking for persons to occupy the space that will generate revenue for us. But instead of the financial aspect of this event, we also need to take serious stock of our emergency management and planning for the event of a natural disaster. While our city was spared yet again from such disasters, we should adopt an air of vigilance. In light of this, a meeting was held with the chair of the disaster management and members of council, which was fruitful towards the future planning for similar events in our city. Coincidentally, it was with great pride that I can say that the city of San Fernando was the first to send equipment to many areas in the south to begin the cleanup effort. Currently, we have several heavy equipment stationed in these locations and are busing our workers daily to assist with the recovery effort in our fellow corporations. Additionally, I am proud to say that the various corporate entities, NGOs, schools, and individuals sprung to action to deliver relief to the many affected citizens of the flood. Several truckloads of supplies are leaving San Fernando on a daily basis to provide assistance and relief to those in need. The Dalai Lama once said tragedy should be utilized as a source of strength. No matter what sort of difficulties, how painful experience is, if we lose our hope, that's our real disaster. As we traverse the many challenges that we face as a society, it is imperative that we learn from these instances, that we evolve and become better versions of ourselves. Our national loss was further compounded by the passing of Ken Professor Fillmore, and most recently, Dr. Winston Bailey, internationally known as the Mighty Shadow. These two titans of art and culture both carved an identity for themselves in the foundation of our national identity. An accomplished panist, Ken Fillmore, a son of San Fernando, represented one of the most iconic trailblazers in the steel pan industry and genre. A musical genius, composer, and arranger with his own unique style, who made our city proud in his achievements. The Mighty Shadow was undeniably one of the greatest lyricists of his time, with the innate capacity to continue in the field of calypso and soca, towering above his younger peers as an icon and as an exemplar. Both men were internationally acclaimed, and I have had the pleasure and honor of touring and performing with them both. Their passing will undoubtedly leave a vacuum in the industry of art and culture that will not be easily filled. An interesting note is the fact that the Mighty Shadow music was represented twice at Panorama, both times by Southern bands. In 1974, Until and All Stars played Bassman, placing third in the national final and winning the Southern Zone. And in 2001, the band from Coffee Street, Skiffle, played Stranger, placing fifth and winning the Southern Zone. I have long adopted a position on ensuring that we take the time to honor our national icons, these living treasures and embodiment of our national identity. I continue to champion the call for recognition of these icons before it is too late. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to pay attention to these matters, and in the case of Shadow is due to get an honorary degree, I think, by the end of this week at the University of the West Indies. It is too little, too late. I thank you.